Couple minutes and we'll begin in a couple minutes. Same as before, I'll just talk to you about the film and see what questions we may have from our students.
Cool.
Very nice.
Okay.
Good.
How have you been, Eric?
Not bad, just keeping busy with the festival. Lots of fun interviews. So you two are adding to it, which is great. So, and you two are still in Cleveland?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So yeah, you never know with the Zoom.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
People could be anywhere. Well, so you say you're in Cleveland, you could be in, Hawaii somewhere.
Right. Undisclosed
I wish we
location.
were in Hawaii.
Yeah, so cool. So, when did you shoot this film? Was it last year?
Yeah, it was June
June.
last
Okay.
year. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
because the month of June. Yeah, yeah.
June of last year. Okay. And did you shoot it in a day, one day?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. And where did you shoot it? What part of Cleveland? Or
Cleveland Heights.
Cleveland Heights? Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay. Well, for those of you who are joining us, welcome. If you're joining us again, welcome back. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A portal and we'll get to them as time allows. And special thanks to Bestil Radicic, whose efforts made this conversation possible. Okay, let's begin. Hello, and welcome to Film Slant Stream's post-film conversation for Altruists. My name is Eric Seiler, and I'm a professor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We are very pleased to be joined by the co-directors of Altruists, Abby Burton and Antonio Harper. Hello, and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh, it's great to have you. Such a timely, important film. I know you made it last year, but did you have any idea that it would still resonate today when you created this film?
I mean, we hoped it wouldn't, but we kind of knew it would. So
It's just one of those things that well, it was one of the reasons why we did make the film was because that it wasn't something that was new. It was something that has this reoccurring cycle. And the unfortunate thing is that it sometimes feel like every one step forward is like three steps back, because the next day there's something even worse, or there's something even crazier than what happened the day before. So that was one of the main influences on wanting to do a project like this during the time that we did it.
Now, I know you two work together as a great team, and Abby, you create the ideas, and Antonio, you execute it. Was that the case for this film? Did it come about that way?
I always say maybe. I get a lot of my inspiration from him, even when he doesn't know it. So this project came after George Floyd's murder, and we were talking a lot about how he felt about it and things that he had seen in the media. And I just basically tried to take some of the things that he was saying and put it into an idea. So one of the things that we'd been seeing was comments on articles on social media about George Floyd saying, why didn't someone step in? One of those people, the person that was recording it was a 17-year-old girl, I believe, that her video was the one that went viral. And they were like, why didn't she step in? Why did she just stand there and record? And I know Antonio was very frustrated by that. And I think he was like spitballing just things. We were going back and forth. And I was like, well, why don't we show that? Why don't we show that if someone did step in, what would happen? Because it's not realistic for a Black person to step into that situation without putting their own life at risk. So I think that we did definitely come up with it together, but I think that it was from a collective view.
Well, it also stemmed from the frustration because the the day before, or the day that we kind of came up with the idea was on May 30th of 2020. And for a lot of people who were in Cleveland, and maybe people saw it on the news, but there was, the Black Lives Matter protest downtown at the Justice Center that turned to protesters getting tear gas, shot with rubber bullets, and flashbang. And we were there as we went down there in protest, but we had up leading up to that point, we had seen things and how the police were handling protests in New York and Minnesota and all those places. And so we went with first aid kits, with baking soda, with things that we could go to essentially help people, because we were preparing. We didn't want that to happen, but it would have been stupid for us to not be prepared for that. And so unfortunately, that's what went down. And after that, when we got back home, we just started talking, and that's kind of where the idea stemmed from. And we wrote it down, and we actually have the piece of paper that we wrote the idea down. We framed it because of it was one of those things that we just felt means more than the project itself. And it was something that we wanted to just do without the attachment of trying to do festivals, without the attachment of trying to have it go viral. We just wanted it to be a project that allowed us to express how we felt about the situation. And fortunately enough, a lot of the people who helped us, or all the people who helped us actually create the project, felt the same way. So that was a big.
Well, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about creating this, because I know you shot this in June 2020, barely a month after the George Floyd killing. And how did you pull this off? I mean, how did you did this on the streets? And at one point, I saw a car that passed by and they slowed down. I didn't know if that was a real car or if it was or part of the shoot. So tell us.
So I think when we have an idea, we move pretty fast. So we came up with that idea when we got home from the protest. We're like showering tear gas off of ourselves. We're like, let's call our friends. We called our friends at Black Valve first. It's Evan and Hunter, and they own Black Valve. It's a production company downtown. They're amazing. They heard us out and they were like, yeah, we're passionate about the exact same thing. This sounds like an idea that we'd love to help with. So they were on board, and they had the camera and all of that like fancy equipment that we had, and they were the camera operators as well. And then we contacted Launchpad Productions, which was Ryan Kelly. He was on board to help us with as a producer, and he helped us with the costumes and everything like that. And then as far as us, we moved pretty fast with writing, and then we reached out to people who we thought could be actors. And then Antonio worked his magic. He's a very big people person. So he called his family friend, owns the salon that we shot in front of. And so we have that. And then
I was going to say the biggest scare for us, or for me personally, was we knew we were going to need a police car, a cruiser. And to me, that was the biggest scare to have to ask, because essentially, the whole premise of the film is how police are reacting to these situations and how they deal with them, and how they deal with them in the incorrect way. And that was difficult, and that was kind of the more nerve-wracking ask, was to call a police station and be like, hey, we need a police car. And a lot of the police stations in Ohio, and primarily Cleveland, they're used to being on film shoots and everything, but including a car in a project like that, I felt was going to be probably the hardest aspect of it. But it ended up thankfully being a very streamlined process through the Cleveland Police Department, because we're working on a couple projects that we've reached out to the Cleveland Police Department and have been in communications about. And it was interesting because our contact that I had called to ask to see if we could get a car, he said he referred back to the project that we're, still ongoing. We've been working on this project or communicating with him for the past maybe 4 or 5 years. It was a project that I finished or started writing in college. And, it was funny because he said he had just recently looked back at that project and kind of refreshed his mind. He was like, yeah, it's very interesting that, this project that you approached me about 4 years ago is still relevant today. And then I kind of just said, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's, the reason why we need to keep bringing, shedding light on these issues, because, if we just focus on them when they're trending, or we focus on them when they affect us personally, then we're never gonna get anywhere. So that was one of the reasons why we just, we felt passionate about wanting to get this project done. We, community support behind it in Cleveland Heights was definitely a plus, and it really helped everything. But that car, yeah, so it's a one shot. It was a one take, which poses its own, issues in itself. We, dealing with COVID and being one of the first, if not the first, production to actually come together and shoot after everything essentially shut down. Our production was one of the first projects to actually shoot a film in Cleveland after everything kind of shut down. So we were being utilized through the film commission and to see the procedures, the additional procedures. So that was an added feature. But basically, when we did the one shot, we did maybe about 10 takes of it. We spent all day setting it up, and then we run through it. And that particular take, that was a bystander car. So that car that went by with that guy's emotion was completely unscripted. And there was that take, and then there was another take where you didn't see the woman, but she was across the street and she was coming out the laundromat and she saw what we were doing, and she like dropped her clothes and started crying, like almost uncontrollably, because of the scene that we had set up. And her emotion just essentially poured out of her. And so that was another, like, we got a lot of those kind of moments, because we didn't necessarily lock the sidewalk down, because if people were walking through, we just told them, hey, this is what we're doing, just a heads up, we can get consent forms or whatever. But yeah, that car that drove by and that guy's expression when he was looking at the scene was completely unscripted and all natural. That was just a person. But one of the things that we took away from that shoot was that we were happy that there were at least 4 or 5 people who came up to kind of assess the situation and be like, they essentially came up and started to intervene with the actors that were dressed as police officers. And they actually started to, be like, get off of him, stop doing that. What are you doing? We actually had to stop filming a couple takes, because they were seeing that scene and felt like they needed to, intervene with it. So that was an interesting, a couple interesting scenarios that happened.
Did anyone call the police, actual police on you during the shoot?
No.
I think that
Okay.
it was, I don't know. It upset me to see people that were stopping and upset by what they were seeing.
Yeah.
It shows how traumatic it is for
Right.
people to see that type of thing. And so we were hoping that they would see the camera, hoping that they would, realize that it wasn't real. But a lot of the times we did, take them water, sit them down, be like, hey, this is why we're doing this project. We didn't mean to upset you. But no one ended up calling the cops. I think there were enough cops there. But
Yeah.
they just mainly tried to come and like figure out what was happening and stop.
Sure.
And then, I see that question. Do you want to tell them what that project is?
For what?
The project that you
Yeah,
mentioned.
you mentioned a
Oh.
project.
What it was.
Oh yeah, so it's should we mention it, or you want to?
I mean, we can just say it's a feature-length film we've been working on since college. It has to do with similar things: police brutality, social justice, which hopefully you guys will see within the next year or two.
Yeah, so that was another reason that we shot this film, was to essentially use it and have it available as a part of our, pitch folder for getting, people on board for the larger project. And that was something that, it wasn't in the forefront of our mind, but when we finished it and we saw how it came out, we figured that it would only help our cause in terms of attacking the larger project that touches on more intimate issues that are stemmed from these kind of situations. So
Mm.
that again, yeah, like Abby said, hopefully we'll be able to you'll be seeing some more information about that in the next year or so. But yeah, that was something that we definitely had in mind once we finished the project and saw how it came out.
Great. Well, another question I had to ask about the shoot was the shirt the gentleman was wearing. It said "I am dance." I know that was deliberate. Can you explain what was behind that shirt and the message on it?
Yeah, so the I Am Dance company, they're a local company in Cleveland, and essentially the so the whole premise around that character and the reason why shot it in that way, and also shot it in a one shot scenario, was to remove all ideas of who that character is intimately, but to see that he is, because a lot of the issues that you see with these news reportings after these killings, and I saw it one, just recently they came up with everything that's going on now, but they dig into who the person is and what warrants they had or what their entire childhood background is and everything. And we felt that having Conrad Miles, that's the actor, having him, he's very active in the krump and dance community. We felt like that was a great example to just showcase, it doesn't matter what the person's background is. It doesn't matter who the person is. When these people are essentially, when they're murdered, it shouldn't matter, especially in the way that they are murdered. It shouldn't matter of their background. It shouldn't matter where they were coming from or where they were going. It's these situations that Black men find themselves in. It's unfortunate and it's heartbreaking because they find themselves in these situations, and then after the fact, people try to justify why they're in these situations and this, that, and the other. So to show him coming around, the alley and coming down, the I Am Dance, that shirt kind of just resembles for us I don't know,
it was a shout out to a local company, but
Yeah.
It was also a shout out to Conrad, and he is a part of that organization, which there was a documentary called The Sessions in Cleveland International Film Festival as well, which shows how krump and dance is a part of the Black community as a mental health outlet.
Right.
And so it was kind of a tribute to that, in the sense of this character that you don't know anything about, is a part of this organization that is trying to help Black mental health, especially Black male mental health, and the trauma that they have to go through. So it was a little shout out to that. And then Conrad was we told him to bring a white shirt, and because how we wanted it to be was, the white and then the dark. So the white being he's like the savior, and then the dark being the people that are not the savior. Right. So we wanted him to wear white. He ended up bringing that shirt, and we're like, we actually really like that. The organization was fine with us using that shirt in the film, and we thought it was a really good message to send.
Yeah, there was a lot of things like that we figured out on the day as we were blocking everybody. Small things that we hope either people noticed or maybe they didn't notice, but there was a lot of small details in there that
it was a dance. It was a choreographed dance, which I don't know if it was all perceived, but we hope it was.
It was at least a good majority we hope was perceived, or at least subconsciously on some level, because a lot of this stuff we figured out on the go, because when you have, you know, when you're doing a one shot, you can plan out as much as you want, but then when you get on set, it is like how you said, it's a dance with the entire cast, it's a dance with the entire crew, and
The camera.
the camera, and the whole point, that the reason why we wanted it to be a one take, the reason why we wanted it to be only, you know, less than 2 minutes, was because in these situations,
That's
that's
realistic.
realistic.
Mhm.
You know, we didn't want to have all this dramatic music. We didn't want to have this dramatic backstory of the main character, or, you know, whatever it may have been. It was because in real life, and realistically, what reason is there to dramatize that stuff? It already is dramatic. It's traumatic. And so to have, that was another reason why we had limited music, aside from when he was listening to his headphones. But it was to allow people to see when somebody, especially a Black man, comes face to face with these situations and these scenarios, how quickly they unfold, and how quickly they have to decide whether or not they're going to put their own life in danger to essentially try to save another Black man.
Possibly save another
exactly,
person.
but-
I mean, that's not
Right.
even a guarantee.
Right.
So we are almost out of time here. Just a couple quick questions I just had. One is there was a white couple that walked by.
Mhm.
Were they part of the cast, or were they just people walking by?
So they were kind of they were part of the cast, and they were like the people that are walking by and they're trying to ignore it. They're on their
Mhm.
date,
Yes.
they're trying to ignore it. There was his mom
Mhm.
was actually another one of the white cast members, where you can see her. She's kind of back to the right of Conrad, and she's like looking, she's like, what's going on? And she takes off. She's gone. Like, she's not
Mhm.
sticking around for this. But then we had a lot of the Black cast were the ones that were yelling and talking to
Right.
the police.
And the
We only
reason-
have a little bit of time.
Yeah, well, the reason for that was to just showcase, you know, I mean, it's still relevant, but during that time, especially during protests, you saw a lot of people expressing that, you know, white people should have been using their privilege and their capability to stand in between, you know, Black people and the police during these protests, because it was less likely that, you know, something bad would happen. And so having her and having my mom as the white woman at the furthest back corner of that entire scene and then walk off was kind of symbolic to how there are people who see these situations on social media, in their own backyards, in, you know, their work environment, wherever, and they just don't care. They don't try to step in. They don't try to help, and they just walk away. So that was one of those details.
Mhm.
And the last question I had was the location. How much time did you spend trying to identify a location, you know, that would make this situation realistic? Because Cleveland Heights is a, you know, pretty nice suburb, so it's kind of hard to find those location that look like you want it to look.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It took a little while, but luckily, because we were gonna do it in front of a convenience store, similar to where George Floyd was actually murdered. But when it comes down to stopping convenience store traffic on a weekend, it's not really like,
Convenient.
yeah. So we decided to look for different places. And then when he said Lenora's place, we
Mhm.
went and we found that alley. So it was like
It was
another one of those
yeah,
things that
it
just
was-
kind of fell into place.
Yeah, Lenora's Hair and Salon in Cleveland Heights. She's a long time family friend, and a lot of what we care. I don't know what we care about a lot about this project is that a lot of it just came together.
Mhm.
It just ended up coming together, from the locations to Evan and Hunter of Black Val, from Ryan to all the cast and crew coming together. And, you know, especially shout out to the cast for the police officers, because that was a hard ask too, being like, we need you to be in this situation where it's against your moral codes, but we're trying to shed light on a bigger picture. So, you know, shout outs to all the cast and especially the crew members who came out and put that together, even though it was a short little segment piece. You know, we're very happy that all that turned out, and that, you know, we were able to collectively put this project together.
Yeah.
So
Right. And I just want to add that, the victim on the ground with his knee on the, but had his knee on the net. He was not actually, hurt in this. And I noticed the
No,
cop
Aaron,
was, trying not to really put his weight on,
Yeah,
but we got the
we-
idea.
Practices on mats beforehand where everyone got familiar with each other and where they could be, where they couldn't be. We were very careful with that so that he
yeah,
wouldn't be
Aaron
injured.
Shepard was portraying the black man on the ground. He did a
Mhm.
phenomenal job, and there were a couple times where we had to take a break from filming to give him a chance to kind of because it was very emotional for him, and I mean for all of us, and we came to find out later why that was, but there was just again all these pieces and parts that just kind of came together, being able to work with such a phenomenal cast and
Mhm.
crew.
Yeah, but we were very careful to make sure no one was injured or no one even everyone took those emotional breaks because it
Mhm.
was a really difficult thing to film.
Right. Yeah, you said the key thing, Abby. Injured, not physically, but emotionally too. So those breaks are necessary.
Yeah.
Well, Abby Burton and Antonia Harper, thank you so much for taking some time to give us some insight on this important piece of work. And I wish you two all the best.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you so much, Eric. We appreciate being on with you guys.
Mhm. And I'd like to thank you, our audience, for joining us for this important and invigorating conversation. For more information about the current 45th Cleveland International Film Festival or any of our future film festivals, please continue to follow us on social media or visit clevelandfilm.org. I'm Eric Seiler. Thank you.